Hello students, my name is Tanushree and I welcome you all to Aditab. So today we are going to start the 7th lecture of our series Agriculture through MCQs, and the topic for today's class is Dimensions of Agriculture Farming Part 1. Alright, so without wasting any further time, let's get started. Okay, so this is the schedule, and as per this schedule we are here. So today we are going to cover this topic. Alright, so the first question for today's class is cultivation of crops in areas receiving rainfall from 750 to 1150 millimeter per annum is known as what, right? So the correct answer here is option number A, dry farming. All right. See students, as far as average amount of average rainfall per annum is concerned, right? So we have different classification of the farming, because in different areas there is different amount of rainfall, and on the basis of that rainfall different type of farming is practiced over that place, right? So this is the classification of the farming. In what type of rainfall, what kind of farming are we going to do? So basically there are three types of farming as far as the average average annual rainfall is concerned, right? So on the basis of the amount of average annual rainfall which we are receiving at a particular place, we can practice either of these three types, right? Now, what is meant by these three types and how we define these three types? Let us discuss that. So as far as the dry farming is concerned, in dry farming, this dry farming, it is practiced in those areas where the rainfall, the average annual rainfall, it is less than 750 millimeter, right? And as far as the dry land farming is concerned, so dry land farming is essentially practiced in those areas where the average annual rainfall, it ranges from 750 to 1150 millimeter, right? And as far as the rain-fed farming is concerned, it is practiced in those areas where the average annual rainfall is more than 1150 millimeter, right? So on the basis of what is the amount of rainfall which we are receiving, we have these three types of farming, right? So moving ahead, if you look at this table, here are three other, not just three, here are other characteristics which are associated with these three types of farmings, right? For example, if we look at dry farming, so here it is said what kind of cropping system we can have. See students, in the dry farming, the amount of or you can say the length of the growing period, it is very less. It is less than 75 days. So when the length of the growing season, when it is so limited, then it is not possible for us to have multiple cropping system, and therefore in both the dry farming and dry land farming, we can have only single crops, right? Or at max we can have two crops growing together. We can have intercropping or single cropping, but not multiple cropping in these areas. All right. And also as far as the constraints are concerned, so in the dry farming, the problem is of wind erosion, right? Because here we cannot grow the crop for the entire year, so the land, it must be kept fallow for a very long period of time, and during that period of time our land, it is susceptible to wind erosion, right? However, if you look at the dry farming, so here the problem is of water erosion, right? Because these areas, they receive high amount of rainfall, and therefore the problem here is of water erosion and not wind erosion, right? So on the basis of the farming system, right, so first we see the amount of rainfall, and then we decide what kind of farming is done in that particular area, and then there are again further characteristics which are associated with each of the different kinds of farming which we practice. All right, so let's move to the next question now. It says that the regions in India that receive 500 to 750 millimeter of the average rainfall are called as what? See students, in the previous question which we we dealt with the kind of farming on the basis of average annual rainfall. But here in this question, we are dealing with the type of the area on the basis of rainfall, right? So that question, it was associated with the farming. This question, it is associated with the area, right? So understand the difference between the two. So here the correct answer is option number C, semi-arid region, right? So areas which receive the rainfall between 500 to 750 millimeters of the average rainfall, we call them the semi-arid region, right? So if you look at here, we have provided you the entire table, right? So the farming, they were of three types, but the areas, they are of five types, right? So when the average annual rainfall, it is less than 500 millimeter, that area is known as arid region. However, if it is 500 to 750 millimeter, if the range is from 500 to 750 750 millimeter, then we called it as semi-arid region. How, if it is from 750 to 1100, then the area is known as dry subhumid. And if the area is from if the rainfall is between 1100 to 1400 millimeter, then the area is known as moist subhumid, and if it is more than 1400, then that area is known as humid mountainous region, right? So this is the classification of different areas on the basis of amount of rainfall that particular area receives. All right. So now let's move ahead to the third question. Okay. So this question, it talks about the All India Coordinated Research Project for the Dryland Agriculture, and you have to choose the incorrect statement regarding this project, right? So try solving this question. All right. So the correct answer here is option number B. Okay. See students, as far as the dryland agriculture is concerned, so as we have just seen that it is not possible to have very high yield from the dryland agriculture. However, even in that case, to maximize, or you can say to optimize the use of the resource that we have, to optimize the utilization of the natural resources that we have, right, to have as much yield as we can have from that area, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, right, it is the ICAR which started this All India Coordinated Research Project for Dryland Agriculture in the year 1970. So the first statement is correct. However, as far as the project assistance is concerned, this project, it does not receive assistance from World Bank. Rather, it receives it from the Government of Canada, right? Government of Canada. And therefore this statement too becomes wrong, right? And this project presently has 25 cooperative centers, right? And the last statement, it talks about the mission mandates. So these are the 5 mission mandates as far as this project is concerned, right? So the first one is about the optimum about optimizing the usage of the natural resources. The second is about evolving simple technologies to increase the crop productivity in these areas, right? To see what kind of crops we can grow, or to see if any hybridization of the crops can help their growth in these areas, right? Can we through hybridization, can we make a particular crop drought resistant or not, right? Can we develop any water harvesting technologies or not, right? So that is also one of the mandates, to carry out the research so as to better utilize the resources, right? Then it is about the develop alternate and sustainable land use systems, right? So whatever land is there, if the moisture is not available, then in that particular time period, instead of leaving that land fallow, what other alternative uses we can have? For example, we can go for poultry farming, we can go for livestock farming, right? So all these are also the sources of the livelihood which are available to the people living in these areas. So the fourth point is about developing these alternate land use systems, right? Okay, so these are some of the mission mandates, and all of them revolve around the basic theme that we have to use the resources available in the dryland agriculture to the best of its capabilities. All right, now let's move ahead to the next question. Okay. It talks about, in which of the following type of cropping systems coconut, jackfruit, coffee, papaya, pineapple are grown together to utilize the available resources in the most efficient and the economical way, right? So the correct answer here is option number A, multi-layered cropping. See students, what happens is that horizontally land is a limited resource with us, right? So we cannot have a unlimited land as far as the horizontal division is concerned. Now to overcome this constraint of the land, we started using the vertical space, right? So that is essentially the theme behind multi-layered cropping. In the multi-layered cropping, what we essentially do is we plant the crops of different heights together, and also these plants have different sunlight requirements also, right? For example, we can plant a tall tree, right, which requires a lot of sunlight, and here to utilize this space we can plant some another species, right, which does not require that much sunlight, and even the shade will protect that plant, right? For example, here in this question we plant a coconut tree, and then underneath we plant a coffee plant, right? So these are some of the ways of utilizing the land constraint that we have. All right, so that is about the multi-layered cropping. If you see here in this picture, so first we have these tall crops, then we can have the medium sized crops like mango, and then at the lowermost level we can have some spices, or you can say we can have coffee plants, right? So that is about the multi-layered cropping, where we use the vertical space by planting trees of different heights, right? Okay, then we have the mixed cropping. Okay, so in the mixed cropping also we plant different crops together, so so to better utilize their resources, right? So if we are using one plant which is you can say exhaustive crop, right? It takes a lot of nutrients from the soil, and along with it we are planting say a leguminous crop which is a restorative crop, which provides the nutrients back to the soil, right? So then that would be an example of mixed cropping. All right, after that we have two terms, sequential cropping and relay cropping. I think this require a little bit of explanation. See, as far as sequential cropping and relay cropping is concerned, they are almost the same. Just one point, there is one point where they both are different from each other, right? See students, what happens is, suppose we are growing a crop called maize, right? Now maize is a deep rooted crop, right? So when we harvest the maize, the soil structure, it gets improved, right? Because you are harvesting a deep rooted crop, right? Now just after the harvesting, without wasting any further time, like if we are planting potatoes there, right? So maize was there, we harvested it, and just after the harvesting, without wasting any days, right? If we are planting the potatoes in place of the maize, right? That is known as sequential cropping. Now here the crop, the potato, it will utilize the good soil structure, and also it will better utilize the soil moisture which was left in the crop after the harvesting of maize, right? So in this manner, our time, our labor, and our resources, all of them have been preserved. So that is the sequential cropping, where you plant another crop or the second crop just after harvesting the first crop. So that is the sequential cropping. Now what is meant by the term relay cropping? In the relay cropping, what we do is, the only point where it is different from the sequential cropping, it is the time of sowing, right? So in the sequential cropping, we were sowing the second crop after harvesting the first crop, right? But in the relay cropping, we sow the second crop when even when the first crop is standing in the field, right? So the first crop, here also let's take the example of rice or some leguminous crop. So rice is already standing in the field, right? We have not harvested the rice as of yet, but the rice is matured, it is ready to be harvested, right? So the first crop, it is ready to be harvested, it is matured, but we have not harvested it, and then in that plant itself we plant a second crop, say some leguminous plant, right? So that will be the example of relay farming, right? When we have not harvested the first crop, and before that we plant the second crop, that is the relay farming. All right, so I think with this, the difference between sequential cropping and relay cropping is also clear to you. All right, so if you see here in this picture, right, so this is the example of relay farming. This picture, it is the example of relay farming only, because here you can see the rice plants, they are growing, and in between them, in between the rows of these rice plants, we have already started planting these leguminous plants, right? So that is the example of relay farming. Now don't get worried about don't think that if we are going to harvest rice now, won't it damage those leguminous plants? No, it won't damage leguminous plants, because there are machine like that, there are lightweight and specialized machines to carry out such operations, right? All right, so now let's move to the next question. Okay, so it says that the dash can be defined as a systematic approach to farming intended to reduce agriculture pollution, enhance sustainability, and improve efficiency and profitability, right? So the correct answer here is option number C, alternative farming system, right? See students, as I have explained it to you in the previous class also, that because of the commercial farming or the kind of farming we have been practicing since the onset of the industrial revolution, since the beginning of commercialization of the agriculture. So the kind of agriculture we have been practicing, although it have been very rewarding for the mankind, but at the same time it was very hazardous, you can say, or it was damaging and destructive for the natural environment to certain extent as well, right? Now, to overcome those negative sides of the conventional and the commercial farming, we have the alternative system of farming. So the organic farming, you have the biodynamic farming, you have the natural farming, you have all these. They are the branches of the same term called the alternative farming system. They are an alternative to what have been practiced since centuries here, right? And as you all know, conventional farming is about using all the chemical fertilizers and all the conventional ways which we are being using to maximize the output. And then there was the commercial agriculture. In the commercial agriculture, the main aim of growing the crop is to get cash out of it or to sell in the market, right? So that was about the commercial farming system. All right, now let's move ahead to the next question. Double digging is used in which of the following farming systems? All right, this is a very interesting question. The correct answer here is option number D, bio-intensive farming. All right. Now, before I move ahead in this question, let me explain you what is meant by the term bio-intensive farming. Okay. So it is like this term, it has been created by using two terms, bio and intensive, right? What is meant by the term intensive agriculture? When we plant a lot of crops together, right? So that is what we essentially do. Like if we have this plot of land, then in intensive cultivation or in the bio-intensive, we will plant the crops so close to each other and so dense to each other so that hardly any space is left in between them, right? So we plant the crops very intensively with each other, right? We maximize our land use. Now it will have two benefits. The first benefit is that it will prevent the growth of weeds, right? Because when we are planting them so close, there are not enough nutrition left for the weeds to grow, right? And also it will prevent the you can say soil erosion, wind erosion, right? Why? Because again, the plants are cropped very close to each other. But again, the term intensive, we understood how we do bio intensive. But what is meant by the term bio in this? Here, because bio-intensive agriculture, it also forms a part of the alternative farming system. So although we are planting these crops very intensively, right? But here we don't use chemical fertilizers. Rather, we use compost, vermicompost to make sure that our soil, it has good nutrition. And also this kind of agriculture, it is preferably practiced on those areas or on those soils where the soil is very good. It is already very good, very good in nutrition, right? So that because of competition, the plants do not die, right? And also to make sure that instead of spreading horizontally, the roots can spread down deeper. We take the practice of double digging in this in this type of agriculture system. So what is double digging? Let me show you here, right? So if you see this this diagram over here, okay, just wait for a second. Let me repeat it with once again to you. So if you see here this diagram, right? So in this diagram we have A1, B1, C1 and D1. So first we removed A1, then using a fork we dug A2, right? Okay, I'm not able to pause it, but let me tell you, right? So there are different blocks, right? So first we will dig this part, take the soil out, and then using this instrument we will dug the underneath part, right? And then we will dug this part, right? And the soil which we have taken out from this part will be shifted to this part, and again the layer underneath will be dug down, right? So in this way we do the practice of double digging, right? So in double digging, although we are not adding anything, but still the soil, it is getting considerable aeration, the compaction, it is being broken down and the soil is being aerated, right? So this practice, it is being carried out in intensive cultivation, because although we are planting the crop crops together, but we have to make sure that because of competition our yield does not decline, right? So that is why we carry out the double digging, so that instead of spreading horizontally, the roots can spread down vertically, right? So that is our major aim. All right, so that was about the bio-intensive agriculture. Then we had agroecological farming. See students, in the agroecological farming, whatever farming we do or whatever agriculture we practice, we make sure that the ecosystem of the agriculture, right, the organisms which are living in the soil, the trees which are standing on the field, right, so we incorporate all these phenomena in our agriculture. Instead of isolating agriculture as a agriculture or our farming system separate from the ecosystem which was already there on the farm, we try to incorporate the agriculture and the ecosystem together to maximize our yield, right? So that is the agri-ecological farming. Then we had the organic farming system. Like I have devoted a complete chapter before this video on organic farming, so I don't think that I have to explain it again. Okay, and if you have not watched that video, please go and check it out. All right. Then we have biodynamic agriculture. Again, biodynamic agriculture and organic farming, they are very similar to each other. Just one difference, that in organic farming, you have this scope of taking some things out of the agriculture system, right? For example, if we are using biopesticides, if we are using neem oil as a biopesticides for our crops, then it will be used in the organic farming. But in the biodynamic farming, we don't use, or you can say we use the minimal things from the outside, right? Whatever we can have, right, we will have it on the farm itself, right? So here we combine all the enterprises of the agriculture, be it livestock, be it poultry, be it aquaculture, be it agriculture. We try to incorporate so as to maximize our yield and to minimize taking taking inputs from the outside, right? So that is about the biodynamic agriculture, right? All set. Then let's move ahead to the next question. Okay, it says that which of the following crops or crops is suitable to be grown in the black soil, right? So, like we all must be thinking that it should be cotton which is suitable for the black soil. But apart from cotton, there are also the crops which are suitable for the black soil. You have to identify them, right? So the correct answer here is option number D, all of the above, right? So as far as the black soil is concerned, you can grow cereals like maize, millets like sorghum and bajra, pulses like green gram, black gram, red gram, chickpea, soybean, horse gram, right? And you can also grow oil seeds like sunflower and safflower, fiber crops like cotton, and coriander and chilies, right? So such crops can also be grown in the black soil. However, as far as the red soil is concerned, millets like sorghum can be grown, and minor millets like rei, tenai, samai, right? So they can be grown in pulses, lablab, green gram, red gram, soybean, horse gram, cowpea, they can be grown. Oil seeds like groundnut, castor, sesame, right? So these are the crops which can be grown in the black soil and the red soil. All right, so now let's move to the next question. Which of the following length of the growing period is suitable for a single dryland crop to be cultivated, right? Okay, so you have to tell me the answer. The correct answer here is option number B, 14 weeks. See students, as far as the length of growing period is concerned, it is the time period for which our soil has enough moisture so that the evapotranspiration needs of a particular dryland crop is they are fulfilled, right? So it is that is known by the term length of the growing period, when the moisture in the soil for that amount of or for that length of time period, the soil moisture in the soil, it is enough to meet the evapotranspiration, the evaporation needs of the soil and also the transpiration needs of the plant. They both are met through that soil moisture, right? The minimum amount of time period, right? So that is known as the length of growing period, right? So we have like around 4 or 5 types of length of growing period. The first one is 5 weeks. If the if the length of growing period it is less than 5 weeks, then there will be crop failures, right? No crop will be able to tolerate such low levels of soil moisture. Then we have when the crops have minimum of 14 weeks, then dry land crops, they can achieve their potential productivity in if it is about 14 weeks. However, if it is at least 14 weeks, then we have a single dry crop which can be cultivated. Then we have 14 to 20 weeks, then intercropping system can be cultivated. You can grow two crops simultaneously if it is from 14 to 20 weeks. However, if the length of growing period is more than 20 weeks, then long duration crops or double crops can be cultivated as well, right? So you can grow two crops, or you can grow crops which are of long duration, right, which require a lot of time period to mature, right? So both these kind of crops can be grown in the if the length of growing period is more than 20 weeks. All right, let's move to the next question. Okay, DASH is a technology enabled approach to farming management that observes, measures, and analyzes the needs of individual fields and crops, right? So the correct answer for this question is option number A, precision agriculture. So in precision agriculture, we use technology intensively, right? We use GPS and all these technology to make sure that for each area of the field, we have the precise information. What is the nutrition level? What is the soil moisture level, right? Is there any pest or not? So we use technology to take all these to analyze all these situations, and then we take the decision accordingly, right? Because what happens most of the time is we see that okay, in this particular part of a field, because see, precision technology and most of these technology, they are used in very large fields, right? So if we see that plants in this particular part of the field, they are not doing that good, right? So it might be possible that we start using the treatment for the entire field, right? So to avoid such mistakes, overutilization of the fertilizers or overutilization of our resources, we undertake precision agriculture. So here we analyze the problems, or we analyze the situation of the field precisely, very precisely, using the technology, and then accordingly we take calculated moves, right? What amount of fertilizer to use, which fertilizer to use, right? Everything, every decision is taken by taking clues from the technology. All right, so apart from this precision agriculture, the other terms which are mentioned here are aeroponics. In aeroponics, what we essentially do is aeroponics, aquaponics, and hydroponics. Okay, before I move to aeroponics, let me explain you hydroponics. In hydroponics, we do is we have a nutrient solution, right? So we have a nutrition, no, this is not, this is aeroponics, this is hydroponics, right? So we have a nutrition solution, and then instead of growing the plants in the soil, we grow the plants here in this water solution, right? So this is hydroponics, right? But in aeroponics, what we essentially do is instead of soaking the entire water or entire root system in the water, we just keep the roots in the air, right? And timely we provide the mist, right? Some type of mist is given to the roots, right? So as so that the roots can have maximum oxygen, and the water is provided, or the water in the form of mist is provided whenever there is a requirement. So here in hydroponics, we are keeping the roots in the water itself for the entire period, but in the aeroponics, we are keeping them in the air and just supplying them with the mist, right? Apart from this, we have this aquaponics, right? In aquaponics, what we essentially do is we grow plants and fishes together, right? So the fishes, through their waste, they provide nutrition to the plants, and the plants in turn, they you can say they clean the water, right? Through their root system, plants clean the water, and the fishes, they provide nutrition to the plants, right? So that is about aquaponics. So we are undertaking aquaculture and hydroponics together in the aquaponics. All right, now let's move to the next question. It says that what is meant by the term plant senescence? Okay. Oh, the answer has been already written here. I'm so sorry. All the surprise element went away. Otherwise, this was a very interesting question. So the correct answer here is option number C. It is the process of aging in plant, right? So plant senescence means aging in the plant. Our plant, it can age because of the natural factors or because of some stress related factors, right? But when the chlorophyll, it starts degrading and the plant starts aging, that is known as plant senescence. All right, so with this question we come to an end of our today's 10 MCQs. But before we wrap up this lecture, let's have some homework questions. So the first question says, what is the ideal moisture percentage that needs to be maintained throughout the composting process to make it successful? All right. And the second homework question that we have is, which of the following scientist has developed a working model of natural farming, popularly known as zero budget natural farming? All right. So this you have to tell. Okay. So now we are going to discuss the answers of the previous classes homework questions. All right. Which of the following logo is used when marketing products produced from fields of fully converted to organic field, right? So the fields which are fully converted to the organic field, there is a criteria for conversion also. So those fields which have been fully converted into organic fields, so for those fields, which of these logos are we going to use? So the correct answer is this, right? PRS India Organic. And for those fields where the conversion process is not full or they have not fulfilled the entire eligibility criteria of conversion, for them we use PGS India green logo. All right, let's move to the next question. It says that any organic food manufactured, packed, sold, offered for sale, etc. Is regulated as per the provisions of. It is regulated as per the provisions of Food Safety and Standards Organic Food Regulations 2017. All right. So this regulation, they came in 2017. Remember this year, right? So with this, we have covered the previous year's homework questions as well, right? Previous classes homework question. Okay, so if you are new to our channel and if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do subscribe. And if there is any feedback for us to improve, please let us know. All right. So with this, we come to an end of our today's class. I'll see you in the next class. Till then, take care and study well. Bye.